Hi boys and girls, today we're going to talk about my favorite subject, how vaccines are bullshit. Okay, so anyway, I was doing research, personal research on trying to find out what the mainstream is saying that they're putting into the vaccine, and I think they're going to do like this, it's called like a hydrogel. It's the first ever RNA vaccine. And I'm just like, okay, even the regular vaccines are evil and terrible. I would never inject myself with any of that shit ever again. It's the main source of a lot of the autoimmune issues that I'm having right now as an adult, after years after taking them. And I'm looking at them saying, oh, this vaccine is 95% effective. I was like, really? For a virus that they haven't even isolated yet? That's interesting. Okay, so, they're saying, and they've only had like a few months to do this. So they're saying, I guess according to their science, their mad science, that it's effective. But it's like, what are they using to say that it's effective? It's just baffling. Plus, it's only had a few months of trial. But, not to worry, because they did that with the other vaccines too. They rushed the vaccines through. They only have a few months. Even in the case of the polio vaccine, the people were monitored for 2 days before they put it out in the market, okay? So they don't really care about that, and nobody really asks them. And people just assume that these vaccines have been tested for years and years and years, on the population, but they haven't. So then I don't understand how people are even they're saying it now. They're openly saying it now. Oh, we've been developing this vaccine for a few months, and there's no long-term studies for decades. So it's like people are gonna line up to take this vaccine, and then who knows what the side effects are gonna be like 5, 10, 15, 20 more years later. Right? Like the H1N1 vaccine, when that was going out and people lined up to get that. Now, oddly enough, the beginning of last year, or the beginning of this year, end of last year, they awarded $60 million, or 60 million pounds to people in England that actually was able to sue for the side effects that they got from the H1N1 vaccine. So all these people that are gonna line up to take this vaccine, they're gonna be fucked. I think I won't be getting one. So, I've made up my mind that it's gonna be my time to go. They're gonna have to hold me down. They're gonna have to, I'm not gonna willingly take this vaccine. It's not worth my health. When Highwire was on YouTube, they took Highwire down. They have, I think, the best information because they basically focus on like GMOs and medical stuff. You can go to the website, thehighwire.com, and I think they're on alternative platforms like BitChute and other stuff as well. But they had a guy who was, I think he was like a firefighter, and he did some other stuff, and he had a child that was vaccine injured, but then he had to get a job, and the job was like, oh, you got to take this vaccine, and he's like, oh, well, I don't really want to. They're like, oh, but you have to. It's just like a vaccine, blah, blah. And he's thinking, okay, well, I'm older. I'm a bigger person. Maybe it won't be so bad on me. Dude is crippled for life. Basically, it ate through like his spinal cord. And basically, he was rushed to the hospital. He's like paralyzed on one side. It was just like a terrible story. It's terrible. And you can also, if you go to Vax TV, VAXXED TV, or vaxxed.com, they have lots of people, they have lots of, stories. They're anecdotal, but so is polio and so is smallpox, okay? Those are anecdotes too. So if we're playing that, oh, it's anecdotal shit, so... But the thing that I think that's even more convincing is that people have video cameras and pictures so they can show what they were like before and after the vaccine. But it's terrible. And once you hear some of these stories, people getting paralyzed, people getting, Guillain-Barré, meaning that they're paralyzed, they can't walk, their spinal cords, they're having demyelation diseases, brain damage, autoimmune disorders, stuff that's worse than the disease that you're getting vaccinated for. And yet people are gonna line up for this, COVID jab with a 99% survival rate, you know, that you know, you can, that their therapeutics for, they're still gonna get the vaccine. It's a fucking religion. It's like these people, it's like you can't tell people that vaccines don't work and that they cause damage, because it's like telling them that Jesus doesn't exist or Jesus is a demon or something like that. Like, there are people that just, they won't like believe it. You know, even I know people that have gotten damaged for vaccines or have their pets damaged. That's another thing. I don't even talk about the pets, the livestock that have been damaged from the vaccine. Dogs have asthma now. Dogs have anxiety now. Dogs have all this stuff that's equated with humans and vaccines, and cats have this stuff, right? They were having, like, dogs have an asthma, like, for real, dude, like, for real, okay. But they're just people that they just won't believe it. They don't believe in the amount of evil. And I've talked about before, it's compartmentalization. So they don't teach to the doctors in medical school about the contents of the vaccines, about the fact that there haven't been long-term studies. People just assume that this has been done. Okay, and all this talk mostly has been about the regular vaccine. So the new corona jib jab they're trying to give us has this RNA vaccine, and they're like, oh, it's the first vaccine that has, you know, RNA. I'm like, you know, and then I'm like reading, like I'm looking at some of like the scientific video YouTube channels that are talking about this, and they're talking about like, oh, it's going to be really interesting because it's a smart vaccine, and it's just going to get the smart vaccine, and it's so smart that it knows how to kill off every single virus ever invented. And people are like, and then there are sheep in the comment section that are just like, oh my God, I can't wait. It's going to be so amazing. I'm like, y'all are sheep. I know I left a comment. I forgot which one it was. I was just like, y'all are sheep. Like, yeah, like, good luck with your assisted suicide, your premature suicide, because honestly, that's what it's going to be. Even if you don't die right away, it's going to have some effect. And what other people that have been insiders are saying that are, you know, that actually like humanity, they're basically saying that this is going to merge with your RNA, and there's no turning back, basically. And it's like nanogel. So I'm trying to find out if you guys can send me some information. I'm trying to find out. I think the nanogel has nanobots in it or chips in it or something. I don't know yet. I'm looking to see if I can confirm that. But whatever it is, I ain't getting stuck with that shit, okay? But yeah, that's just creepy. That's creepy. And then you have to look at one of the patent numbers for this stuff called Lucifarase. Okay, why is it called Lucifarase? Why is it patent number 666? Like, I'm not even playing. That's for real. So, I mean, when does it become a coincidence to be too much of a coincidence, right? And I don't think they're going to force vaccinate people like where they kick down your doors just yet, but they're going to be like, you can't get a job, you can't fly, you can't go see Cardi B. Like, Ticketmaster already tried that shit, okay? They were trying that shit, and they had to walk it back because people stood up. In Denmark, they're not reporting this. In Denmark, they had a huge protest because they were trying to make the coronavirus mandatory. And people protested for 9 days, and they backed off, and they're like, okay, we won't make them into mandatory. Then before, it was like the end of last year, Italy was protesting because they were trying to make it mandatory countrywide for all kids to get vaccinated to go to school, and they were like, hell no. And they actually threw out their whole health boards and got new people. And then they actually have an independent firm that's not connected to the pharmaceutical industry to actually research what's in the vaccines. Because we know what's in the vaccines is because of what the manufacturer lists in their excipient list, right? Or in the insert. But we don't really know. We're just taking their word for it. So they actually had somebody, and even with that, it's still really, really bad, okay? But then so they hired this firm, the scientific firm called Corvelva. And basically, Corvelva was finding stuff in the vaccine that wasn't even listed. And they were finding stuff in the vaccine that was like, we don't even know what these proteins are. Like, we don't even, like, they're not listed. We don't know. We can't even identify what these things are. And then on top of that, the antigens weren't in the vaccine. So the antigens is what they inject you with, so your immune system fights off. If you ever see those like nerdy scientific videos and they're like, how does a vaccine work? So it's like, oh, you get injected with the germ, and then the germ, your immune system knows how to fight the germ. And they're like, oh, wow, it's science, so the antigen, so if you're going to get like a measles vaccine, the antigen would be measles. If you're going to get like a pertussis, which is whooping cough vaccine, the antigen would be pertussis, right? But the vaccines didn't have the thing that you're supposed to get. The very main thing that's supposed to be in the vaccine, it wasn't even the vaccine. So they're basically injecting you with questionable ingredients that you have to trust that, they're going to be good for you, that haven't been tested long term, right? And this is, I'm still on the old vaccines, okay? Not even like the new ones, not the new RNA. But yet we're gonna trust these people, right? With an RNA vaccine. Do you know that the Qatar incident happened? So Jonas Salk invented the polio vaccine. He gets credit for that. There are a few people that attempted a polio vaccine before it, but he gets credit for it in the history books. This was like April 1955. Right? There's movies and documentaries and pictures and photo shoots and all this shit. He's like, I'm Jonas Salk. I invented that. Yay, everybody's cured. And then he basically, what basically happened was after the vaccine, 40,000 people got polio from the vaccine. And this is from the laboratory that was manufactured called Qatar. And it's called the Qatar incident, right? And then, but they don't attach Jonas Salk's name from it. That was his vaccine, right? So actually, when you see the people in the iron lungs and stuff like that, it was from people that got the vaccine. There's even if you look in National Archives, that famous picture where everybody's in the iron lungs, they're basically like, yeah, it was a documentary, right? And if you look at the iron lungs, they're not plugged in. So it was basically, I don't know, I'm guessing they were actors because they probably wouldn't have people that really needed iron lungs in machines that weren't plugged in because they would die. So basically, if you look at the documentary footage of what was going on with the iron lungs and stuff, they made like movies about it with people that were like acting and stuff in it. There's like crisis actors, I guess, were around back then too. I wouldn't call them crisis actors. They probably were just hired and were just like, oh, we're doing this show about the March of Dimes. It was the March of Dimes. That's what it was for. It was a documentary on March of Dimes, Jonas Salk and polio and blah, blah. And they had celebrities come out, Lucille Ball, just kind of like now, right? It was like Ella Fitzgerald, Lucille Ball, Dezi, Arnez. They had Disney cartoons talking about getting like the polio vaccine and donating to March of Dimes. Not really far off from where we are now, right? Then you have the 1976 Swine Flu Epidemic. I'm gonna put this in the links, y'all, all right? So don't worry, I'm gonna make it easy. Go to the description section and look for the links, okay? Don't ask me. Don't be like, where is it? I don't know. You say this stuff and you provide no evidence. It's always in the description section, all right? So, 1976 swine flu epidemic. They had this whole thing. Oh my God, the swine flu is coming. We're all gonna die. We're all gonna die. Everybody needs to get vaccinated. People ran out and get vaccinated because, the government would never lie to us, right? Got vaccinated. Swine flu never came. More people got damage from the swine flu vaccine than the swine flu. Same thing happened. Payout last year, H1N1, 60 million pounds for people that got damaged by the swine flu vaccine. The Qatar incident, right? And now it depends on the country, right? Because this was in England that they were able to sue, but here, you're not going to be able to sue. People sued in 1976 for the swine flu vaccine. And then there's a DPT vaccine where people were actually autism and asthma and brain damage and epilepsy was listed on the things that you can sue for. And there were so many lawsuits that they actually went to the government and went to Reagan and was like, hey, if you don't pass this act, then the pharmaceutical industries are going to go out of business because there are too many people that are going to be sued for this. Too many people that are going to be sued. There are too many people that are suing for damage to vaccines. So they basically had the backs of the corporations and not the people. And now you can't sue for any of the vaccines that are on the mandatory list or the national list. And then on top of that, I think I don't know how that's doing, but I know that there was a case for the shingles vaccine where people were getting the shingles and there's a class action suit going, but that's the only vaccine in the United States I know that you can sue for. Any other vaccine, you cannot. You won't be able to sue for a corona vaccine. If your arms fall off, your eyeballs pop out of your head, you're screwed, okay? So you can maybe try and go through the vaccine court and get some money, but it takes at least 10 years, and most people are going to gaslight you, and you're most likely not going to have doctors stand up for you because they're going to be threatened, and that's just how it goes. So if you want to get this jab, there's certain things that you even think about. Like if there's all this corruption, the CDC owns patents for vaccines. They can sell to other governments. They make money off of it. Wasn't that a conflict of interest? There are all these facts that you need to know before you even think about taking this. And if you're going to be coerced because you might lose your job, or you can't fly, or you can't do the things you want to do, you need to really start thinking about, is it worth your health? Because if you do take that vaccine thinking you're going to keep your job and you get sick, then you're screwed, and you're not going to be able to work anyway, and you're going to be homeless because you can't work because you're sick. You don't have money. You're vaccine injured. I'm just saying. All right, y'all. I will talk to you later, and have a great day. Peace, truth, love. Bye-bye.